Ahoy there, chummers, and welcome to the Sixth World, the show where we just sit around and gab about the chip truth at the core of Shadowrun. So today's video, I don't know why I'm recording so many videos lately. Maybe I'm just feeling froggy for some reason. Maybe it's the fact that it's October, and it's always been kind of one of my favorite months because Halloween is in October, and while I don't necessarily love Halloween, my son likes it, so it's kind of fun. Just kind of like a fun month where we do Halloween type stuff. Maybe it's the fact that it's not so freaking godly hot down here in Florida right now at the moment. We're actually about to hit a cold snap, which will bring us way, way, way down to like the low 70s, which is sweater weather down here. But whatever reason, I just felt like doing another video this week. I don't know why. So anyway, the question for this video is just something that just kind of came to me at random, and I'll be honest, that's how a lot of these videos get going, is I just have a random thought, and then I'm like, that would make a really good video topic. Let's go ahead and let's expand on this just a little bit. So, the default setting for Shadowrun. The default setting for Shadowrun, since its inception, we know, has been the mean streets of the Seattle sprawl. There are many reasons for that, mainly because, if I remember correctly, the creators of Shadowrun lived in Seattle, which, yeah, fair enough, right? What you know, right? That, and there were a lot of the influences behind Shadowrun could be found in the Seattle area, particularly the grunge period that starts coming up as you get into the Shadowrun of the 90s. We've talked about this before on the channel just a little bit. So we know what the default setting is for Shadowrun. However, that doesn't mean that you have to stick with the default setting. That doesn't mean that there isn't information on other cities in Shadowrun as well. There is a wealth of information out there stretching across the editions, from cities going from Seattle to Denver to New York to Boston. Chicago in particular has been a favorite of mine as well, with Bug City and all that. By the way, Bug City, if you don't have that source book, I did a review of that source book. It's like 30 years old almost at this point, but it is so good. One of the best source books that Shadowrun has, in my opinion, by far. And it's not just my opinion. There's a lot of people that think the same thing. So if you can find Bug City in a physical hard copy, because I always like having hard copy books, that is the best, in my opinion. Pick that up. You'll find a wealth of information about Chicago and before and during the containment zone. But anyway, get a little off topic here. So the point is, Seattle's the default setting. Doesn't mean you have to stay in Seattle. There's a lot of resources out there if you want to run all over the world. In Europe in particular, Europe has several source books. Some source books touch on places in Asia like Hong Kong, Tokyo, couple of weirder. The Philippines has shown up before. Caravan, which is like a literally just a giant roving city that's a caravan of just vehicles and crap moving from place to place over on the Mongolian steppes. There's a whole wealth of locations out there. So my question for you all out there is, what is your default setting for Shadowrun? What is the setting that you always, or almost always, I would say probably what's the setting that you use at least 70% of the time when you run Shadowrun? For me, because I grew up playing Shadowrun back in the 90s, the default setting, and that's how I was introduced to the game, the default setting for me has always been Seattle. That's where I run my games. That's where I'm most comfortable. I've never been to Seattle in my life. I probably will not go to Seattle just because I don't like traveling. So going cross country does not really have much of an appeal to me. But with the information that's contained in Shadowrun, particularly in source books like New Seattle and that sort of thing, I feel like I have a pretty decent basis to run a game set in Seattle in the Sixth World, and I have done so throughout most of my Shadowrunning career. Think of me as one of those grizzled old Shadowrunners that's they're down in the dumps, living in the barrens, barely above street level, but dang it, I was born here and I'm dadgum sure gonna die here. That sort of that sort of thing out there. Now I have branched out into other cities in the past, and it's never lasted very long though. I have sent my runners to Chicago. Couple of times, 2 or 3 times. The first time I sent them to Chicago into the containment zone, and they encountered an insect spirit. It was the first time I had used an insect spirit, and I vastly overestimated. Well, vastly underestimated, actually, I should say. I vastly underestimated how powerful they were, and one ant spirit almost killed the entire party. I think he killed like half of the party. Before I was like, okay, he's gonna grab a body and go feast on it, so he doesn't kill the rest of you fraggers. Yeah, that was an oopsie on my part. that was a high school game which has instilled a fear of insect spirits that my players have not gotten over yet to this day. Every time I even hint that there is an insect spirit about, that's it. Runs over, cut our losses, and run. Yeah, the Johnson's going to be pissed. The Fixer's going to be pissed. But you know what? It's better than the alternative. That's the kind of thinking that my runners have around insect spirits because of that one run. I did do some of the mission seasons that they started putting out for Shadowrun in some different cities. I tried New York. I tried Denver in particular. I just didn't like it as a setting, and it just seemed like there was a lot of stuff, a lot of moving parts there, with everything being split up between 6 different countries and corporations and that sort of thing, and just a big pain in the ass I didn't want to deal with. I briefly ran a game set in Miami, and then I realized, I don't want to do a Miami game. I lived there for 4 years. That was that was enough for me. I don't want to play there. So I thought I wanted to play there. I was back when Burn Notice was a thing, and I was like, oh, it'd be great to run a Miami game. And then I started running it, and I was like, no, not so much. Did not enjoy my time in Miami, and it kind of, that apathy kind of transferred over to Shadowrun, and it kind of killed that game for me. So all of my games have at one point or another. The only game that was not set in Seattle, 100% not set in Seattle, was a pirate game that I did. I did do a Cyber Pirates game back in high school. That was a very lengthy game, lasted for quite a while, and that was set entirely in the Caribbean, 100% in the Carib League. I think my runners visited Seattle. Well, pirates. My pirates visited Seattle, I think maybe once, twice. Maybe 3 times? I don't know. It wasn't that often at all. If Seattle was even in it, I'll have to ask some of my players who were in that game. Well, the one person who I still play with who was in that game, whether or not Seattle ever came up. But I'm almost positive they never left the league. If they did, oh no. Actually, if I remember correctly, they did sail on a long haul to Africa once, and I think they went once or twice to the Philippines, but mostly it was in the Carib League because Caribbean's a big place. and it's a pretty good spot to run a pirate campaign, to run a classic old school swashbuckling cyber pirate campaign. So Seattle, in a sense, is I would say at least more than 75% of my games have been run in Seattle, which makes Seattle, in my opinion, my default setting. But what's your default setting? What setting do you come back to time and again? Or do you have a default setting? Are your runners world hoppers? Are they always traveling? Do they have places to go, people to see and kill, and new yin to be made in the far corners of the globe? Let me know in the comments section below, and I will see you all next time. And that's the chip truth, chummers. Let me know what you think in the comments section, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more Shadowrun content. Hit that notification bell so you will always know when I upload a brand new Shadowrun video, and until next time, remember to shoot straight and never, ever deal with a dragon.